Hi, it's Melanie Benson, host of New Era Success TV and America's leading authority on optimum performance. And speaking of optimum performance, there's nothing worse than recognizing you've got some sabotaging habits going on and knowing you don't know how to stop them. I mean, we've all had those situations where we realize we're wasting time, we're doing really stupid things that are keeping us from getting the results we want. We all do it, right? But what if there was a way you could eradicate those sabotaging behaviors forever out of your life and be able to be in more command of the way in which you approach your success? Would that be valuable? Of course it would. So let me share with you a little bit about how you can take that on in your own life. Now, the other day I was at lunch with some friends, and it was one of those casual lunches where you're just enjoying each other's company, you're getting caught up, and one of the ladies at the table was sharing about her own experience, about being really unhappy. And she was talking about the problem and kind of like spiraling around in the challenge, and we all kind of recognized that the problem was surfacing again, and of her own volition, she says, I totally get, this is a pattern for me. I'm doing this sabotage thing and I don't know how to stop it. How many times have we been in that place in our life? This woman had a pattern of self-sabotaging the very thing that she wants, and she doesn't know how to stop, so she feels powerless over it. She feels frustrated. She feels hopeless, and to some degree, she's just like kind of giving up on it. And so if you recognize that you're having those kind of unconscious behaviors that kick in, we don't realize we're doing them always. Sometimes when someone makes us conscious of this incompetence area, we can start to recognize this pattern and see what it's doing to us. But there's a huge gap between being conscious about something you're not good at and being able to master it and really be able to take it on. It requires discipline and focus. And for many of us, there's like this hidden thing that's going on that's constantly pulling us back, pulling us back, pulling us back. And that's where some of the most advanced work that you can ever do comes in. And by the way, it's not always easy. It's not always fun, but it is one of the most powerful things you will ever do to free yourself and to truly get liberated in a way that you can take on any kind of project, any kind of business, any kind of goal and succeed at it. Now, self-sabotaging behavior typically comes from a limiting belief, a decision, a story that you made up at some point in your life when you had something bad happen. And we all have it. Every human being on this planet has limiting decisions and old belief systems that are not serving us. The thing is, we don't always know why or where they come from, or we don't recognize them when they happen. So limiting beliefs most often are formed when we're children. When a traumatic experience or something that hurt us or scared us happened, and we make a decision about everything that was going on there for the rest of our lives. We never evolve the decision, even though we grow up and form new strategies and we become more aware of everything that's happening in life. So imagine making a decision about something important, something that you want, as a very small child when you have absolutely no idea what's really going on. Most of us as children, we're reactive. We don't really understand everything. We just know something doesn't feel good, and we decide right then and there how it's going to go for the rest of our life. It's not really very smart, is it? It's not really what's going to serve us, but yet we do it, all of us. So when it's time to eradicate one of these self-sabotaging habits or patterns or belief systems, we have to first of all recognize that it's there. And we have to recognize that there is a process that really works. And then there's a lot of junk. There's a lot of stuff that will get you a little bit, have you give an incremental movement, but it won't eradicate it. It won't move it. And there's some great tools out there, and I'm going to tell you about one that I personally found and have been using for many years now. I use it on myself, and I use it with my clients. And if I've got something really stubborn going on, I'll turn to somebody else that knows how to use it. And it's just my personal thing that I uncovered that really works. I've been on this path of self-discovery and personal development for almost 30 years now, believe it or not. I am that old, and I did start very young. And I tried just about everything I knew to eradicate self-sabotage and behavior patterns that were not delivering a result I did want. I had a lot of thought patterns that were really stressful and causing me to be very angry and upset for many years of my life. And it kept me from having a lot of things I wanted, including a relationship, including success, including being able to have friends that I enjoyed and loved. And it wasn't until I discovered this very powerful technique that everything changed. And part of it is using a combination of NLP, which is short for Neuro-Linguistic Programming, and hypnosis. And just so you don't think it's some kind of wacky thing, NLP is the science of using words to teach the brain to travel down a new neural path. That's how every pattern gets formed. A action happens, a reaction happens, and then the brain says, every time this action happens, I'm going to travel this path over and over and over and over again, like a groove on a record. But again, thinking about when most of these actions happen and the decision that we make to travel this path as a very small child, imagine, realizing that as a child, you can't walk. What if you never decided you could walk because you fell down the first time? It's ridiculous, right? But we do it about other things. So using NLP and hypnosis, I've been able to instantly and permanently shift many of my behaviors and the behaviors of the clients that I work with. And there's a few different steps, and I'll tell you about those in a minute. So this conversation I was having the other day at lunch, I'm sitting with the young lady and the rest of the group, and I started to share this process of how to stop these patterns from ruling your life. And I noticed that everyone at the table had stopped talking, all the little side conversations, and all of a sudden, everybody's focus had turned around and they were looking at me. And I started thinking, I must be saying something that's new, or maybe other people are struggling with the same concept of having patterns that are ruling their lives that they don't want. And it was almost like I was teaching them how to turn bread into gold, because there was that much focus on what I was saying. So when you have a way to get what you want, and you can use a technique that is proven to work, it's worth paying attention to, right? So having a way to get what you want, stopping the unsupportive behaviors, gives us the power to achieve unlimited greatness in our life. So I'll share with you what I told them to do, and that I personally have done. So I don't teach anything that I haven't personally done or I'm not willing to do. First of all, you have to recognize that there is something, a limiting behavior, a limiting decision, a limiting belief that's taken hold of your life and is ruling you. Until you recognize that, you're not going to be willing to do anything about it. So if you watched last week's episode, you know that's true. So first and foremost, you recognize that what you're doing is a problem. It's not working. You're not getting the results you want. The second thing we have to do is we have to isolate what the limiting decision or belief is that was formed. Now, some people are adept at doing this on their own because you've been walking the talk, you've been doing the work, and you know what they are. You know what your stuff is. But if this is newer for you, or if it's really persistent and it hasn't dissolved yet, you may need some help identifying it. There's many exercises that I do in my Success DNA program. There's a few of them in the Big Idea Incubator. So there's some resources for you out there to get some help and some support in uncovering what these deeper layers might be for you. And if you already know what it is, great. You'll be able to recognize the next few steps. The third step is you have to find the original incident. And this is where it gets really interesting, because our mind is such a complex machine. Our mind can play tricks on us. And sometimes what we make the decision about is obvious. You know, as a child, I saw my parents arguing over money. I made up this decision that money was bad because people fight over it. I didn't want to have any, right? That's obvious. Some of them aren't so obvious. Believe it or not, I have had decisions that my brain truly believes were formed in other lifetimes. I don't know if it's real or not. I don't care. It made it go away. I did a process one time that opened me up to be able to see where I was holding myself back from making money. I was struggling to make more than a couple $1,000s a month. I could not figure out, I could not do what it took. I was so trapped in my story of life that I simply could not get motivated, inspired, or in action to do anything else. And I did this process. Of course, someone else was facilitating it for me. And I accessed an original incident that made no logical sense, but it freed me up forever. I don't care where they come from. I just want to be able to conquer them, dissolve them, and move beyond them. So I find that the original incidents are oftentimes things that we can't access with our own conscious mind. So you need to be able to do a process. And if you're familiar with neurolinguistic programming or NLP and hypnosis, you might recognize a technique called timeline therapy. And that is what I do with this process. So I go and I uncover the most original first incident where the form or where the belief was formed, where this story was made up. And then we do a process of reframing it. Now, most timeline therapists stop there. They stop with the reframing and bringing you back into the present moment. And I think that's really valuable and that can work, but I do something else. Okay, so once we've eradicated the belief on the internal level of the brain, when the neurons can now travel a new path because we've eliminated the groove it used to record over and over and over again the story. Because by the way, you will continue to gather evidence to support your limiting belief as long as that groove is perfectly protected. That's why we have to eliminate it, we have to reframe it, and we have to connect you to a new groove, a more powerful story and decision that supports you being able to accomplish everything that you've always dreamed about. But can't do this on your own all the time. So you have to have someone that you trust and someone who knows what they're doing to help you find it. But then you've got to do this fifth step. This is probably the single most important piece of the whole thing. And again, you may not even recognize what these things are, so you have to have someone you trust to guide you. This fifth step is you have to identify and replace any of the triggers and environments that have been causing you to stay comfortable in that pattern. And you have to be willing to replace them or minimize your exposure to them. Because just like anything, if you allow the energy of that old you to stay in your life, it'll be very easy to slide back. That's why they tell people with drug problems or people who have habits to stop being around the source of the trigger. Don't go to a bar if you have a drinking problem. It's too much temptation. Don't go spend time with people if they're the trigger for your bad behavior. Don't go back to the old situations and stimuli for the problem until you're really confident and strong enough in this new pattern. And it takes at least 30 days in your new environment, in your new practice, to create a new groove. Okay, now part of it is done instantaneously, but again, you don't want to tempt fate. You don't want to drag yourself down. So that's the fifth step, is to create new containers, new supporting systems, new ways in which you will support this new belief system to be real in your life. And it's amazing how powerful this is. And to me, it was extraordinary to discover that things that I didn't even see were possible came flooding in as possibilities, even though they were right in front of my eyes the whole time. And that's what happens when you eradicate something that's holding you back. So I hope you'll try this process out. It is one of the most amazing things you can ever do, is to get rid of the patterns and beliefs and stories that are limiting what you can see as possible and replace them with the most powerful you that's out there. I'd love to hear if you've done this and had experiences with this below. If you know that there's maybe a place that you want to try this, and what are you going to do to get this new shift in your life? Let's come together and support each other. Share it in the comments below. I think we'd all learn and grow together from hearing what we're willing to do to step up our game and get rid of the things that are in our way. I'm Melanie Benson, host of the New Era Success TV. We'll see you next week.